So we're going to talk today about trucking. We're going to talk today about transportation. We're going to talk today about diesel fuel and hotshot trucking, owner operators, and the changes that we're seeing going on in the market. Put up a video yesterday, you guys should check it out, about truck drivers basically being working for free or wasting their time for free with no compensation. Recent protests in Port of Baltimore where truck drivers are just sitting idling, waiting for loads to be loaded onto their trucks, even though they're there on time. But apparently, the port workers are only concerned with unloading the cargo containers from the ships and not actually loading the trucks. This, on top of the added cost for fuel, the more expensive vehicles, the more expensive parts, replacement parts, and harder to get parts, and all these other compounding factors, including inflation and the rise of interest rates by the Fed, are further causing more and additional pain to our supply chain and ultimately our economy. And honestly, with the possibility of some pullback from the truck driver industry, specifically the owner operator truck driver industry, we may see pullback in stores, we may see shortages, we may see empty shelves. But at the same time, I think part of the solution is going to drive up prices even further. Now, we're also waiting to get an update on the potential railroad workers union strike that was supposed to be, I believe, I'm going to double check. It was supposed to be August 15th was the deadline for Biden's executive team that he put together to work out negotiations and formulate a plan, as today was the deadline, and theoretically maybe today or tomorrow would start the 30-day strike cool-off period, where if they did not agree to the terms, the negotiations by the railroad companies, Union Pacific, Norfolk Southern, CSX, Warren Buffett's, Berkshire Hathaway's, BNSF, Norfolk Southern. I don't know if I said that one already. But if they don't agree to it, then they have this 30-day period where there's an agreement that we don't agree. We're going to agree to disagree, so to speak. But we're not going to strike for 30 days. So in theory, that 30-day period could give the other side another chance to provide a counter offer and or a solution. Part of the solution could be that the government steps in and we'll see a branch of the military come in and try to operate these trains and these railroad lines without the union workers to keep it going. Again, these railroads account for at least 30% of our supply chain. They account for at least 30% of the goods that you see on the shelves at the grocery stores. Cars, trucks, automobiles at dealerships, building materials, lumber, roofing materials. There's a lot. Fuel gets transported. Other lubricants and oils and petroleum-based products, batteries, even batteries for the EVs, all sorts of things. Pretty much everything runs on rail. And even though it's only at least 30%, 100% of our supply chain is on rail. It's just that 30% of that is primarily rail. Some is air, some is tractor trailer, semi truck. And, this could be a devastating and catastrophic blow to our economy, to jobs, to layoffs, to terminations, hiring freezes. We have new announcements or more announcements about more companies preparing and employees preparing to be laid off by the hundreds and thousands, which we're going to get into that in another video. But the possibility of a strike, which is occurring more and more. Granted, Starbucks, I don't really feel as though Starbucks going on strike is really going to hurt our economy too bad. But if we did see a strike through Costco's Teamster Union, if we did see a strike through the Railroad Workers Union, if we did see a strike or a pullback from truck drivers and owner operators, we are going to feel the pain every single day at the stores, whether the products are there, which they may not be because they're not being transported, and or if they are there, they may see inflated costs and price increases as a result of limited supply and now increased demand for the scarcity of these. Now, I've got a video here that I wanted to share with you some pieces from, and it's this channel name is Burning Rubber Entertainment, and the video is titled "Results of My First Week on the Road with a Hotshot Trucking Company." So there's some things that he touches on here that I want to share with you guys, and make sure y'all were aware what was going on out there and how what's happening behind the scenes in freight is going to have an impact and effect on you, your prep, your family, your wallet, your income, your livelihood, your job, your career, your bank account, your investments, your new house you're building, the house you're renovating, the house you're flipping. Everything is tied to this. So we're going to get into this, and I'm going to talk about this for a little bit with you guys.
Looks like the trains are running through. But I'm still working on securing a load. I've contacted probably 10 brokers. All their rates out here are like $2 a mile or less. So I'm pushing hard for you, I'm pushing hard for me and the industry. $3 a mile. So until we get that, we're not moving. You know, it doesn't cost anything to sit here except for, you know, my time, but I want my company to be profitable. I don't want to just make ends meet. That's not why I sold my house.
So he brings up a very, very valid point here. A few points, actually. Number one, he's pushing to increase how much he's making per mile. And if the companies aren't paying it, he's saying that he's not taking the load, he's not moving. And he says it doesn't cost him anything but his time. But what I want everyone to understand is that time is money. And for me, honestly, if I could, I would take my time, I would be using it in another way to create another stream of income versus just sitting in my truck waiting to receive a load. Now, he says, you know, this is why he sold his house. He sold his house. I'm going to assume he sold the house to buy the truck. Maybe he sold his house so that he could have a lower monthly overhead expense. And maybe he is still making payments on the truck. So if the truck's not sitting, the truck still costs money, plain and simple. Truck, trailer, equipment, fuel, insurance, licensing, everything you need to be a hotshot truck driver. So I don't necessarily agree with it doesn't cost anything, but that's like a semantics there. That's a little bit tongue in cheek. But as far as increasing the rates, if what we see today in the stores, the prices we see today on the shelves, in the stores, online, Instacart websites, Amazon, Walmart, Spark, whatever, wherever you buy, however you buy, the price you see today, if it's based on $2 a mile, if the push for owner-operator, hotshot truck drivers, transportation is to go up to $3 a mile, $1 a mile, that would be roughly a 50% increase to go from $2 to $3. So half of $2 is $1. That's 50%. And you add that dollar to the 2, that gets you to the 3. So theoretically, if he's asking for a 50% increase in his transportation, what would be the impact that we would see on the shelves, the price tags that we would be paying when we're running through these self-checkouts and scanners and things like that and checking out online? How much of an increase will we see transferred to us if transportation goes up 50%? So, but he's also in a similar situation, much like the truck drivers that we talked about yesterday at the port of Baltimore, and the simple fact that he's sitting and waiting. Now, he's sitting here waiting as his choice, but they're sitting and waiting almost forced because they can't get the workers to load them up. But if what he's saying is true, and what we heard yesterday is true about the drivers, the truck drivers, the truckers in Port of Baltimore, and probably other ports around the country that are having these problems that haven't quite hit the news yet. If what we're hearing is true, and either they can't move because they're not being loaded like they're supposed to, or they won't move because they're not getting paid and getting the loads that they want, at the end of the day, they're not going anywhere. So if the trucks aren't moving, the freight's not moving. If the freight's not moving, then the shelves are going to be wiped out. And then how are they going to be replenished?
Hey guys, little update. So what time is it? It's 4 o'clock. I've been inside, really. There's like a lounge and comfy chairs and everything, power to charge up my laptop and tablet and all that stuff. But so I've been hanging out in the lounge, looking at all the loads, quoting every load that would possibly work for my setup, and I finally got somebody that responded and accepted my price. Now they start at $250 and it's for 100 miles, and I asked for $650, and then we settled on $6 because I told her, I'm like, I got a deadhead, 100 miles, you're gonna pay for that. So we got it all figured out, did all the paperwork, got my load confirmation, rate con, and then now she just called me up and she's like, oh, my customer doesn't think that it's gonna fit on a 40-foot. And it's like, well, if it didn't fit on the 40-foot, why didn't you have, dimensions, saying that? All it said was it was 10,000 pounds of building material, roofing material. I assumed it was just pallets. So now she wants me to chill and wait until the morning, until she calls me back and says whether or not I can take the load or it'll fit on my trailer. And if it does, I was able to negotiate with her and get 2 loads. So tomorrow's Thursday, so I should be able to pick up a load Thursday, deliver it Thursday, come back down here Thursday night, and then Friday morning pick up another load and head back north. The only reason I'm doing it is because with the deadhead and everything, it's not quite at my my breaking point of $2.63. It's $2.50. So it's not ideal, but I've been out here for 24 hours, harassing everybody, and everyone's being so cheap, and I don't know how they're moving stuff for $1 a mile that weighs 18,000 pounds, or moving a car or a truck for 60 cents a mile. It's unbelievable, the rates and just the BS I'm dealing with. So if I can run these loads, great. I'll be able to, finish out the week strong with some money. The deadhead won't cost as much because it'll be an empty trailer. I'll get better fuel mileage. But also the location where I'm going is farther up north, because I'm kind of in the middle of Montana and Butte, and I'm heading towards Columbia Falls, Montana. So I'm hoping that I can find a better load out of Montana going far up there, because I've seen everything that's going on down here and dealing with the brokers down here. It's just crap, and I'm about tired of it. I almost want to just deadhead out of here, but that doesn't make a lot of sense. So it's only been 24 hours, so that's okay. But if we get into 2 days of no work, man, gonna have to deadhead out of here. So I'll let you know what happens in the morning.
So I admire his eagerness and his excitement and his optimism. I'm not quite sure why right now, and honestly, I'm gonna have to go into his video and check it out and figure out what brought him to this point. Because honestly, I don't know why right now you would decide that you want to get into freight. into transportation, into hotshot trucking. I don't get it. I don't understand. So I want to know and learn more about him to understand why, to maybe get a better picture and share with you guys. Especially if any of you guys out there, girls out there, own a truck, a 2500, 3500, 4500, and can tow. If there's a possibility there for some income and some growth, let's talk about it. But his eagerness and his optimism, I see it changing just over a few minutes of the video, from trying to get $3 a mile to I've been sitting here for 24 hours and I'm just going to take a load because it's still under my break even, $2.60 something cents. He's taking this load for $2.50. He just wants to get out of there. Now, I also think that these freight brokers who manage the logistics they play a lot of games. Now, I don't know this for a fact, but I just feel like they play a lot of games. They're offering you $250 for a 100-mile load. You counter at $650 for the 100-mile load, taking in consideration you got a deadhead. No problem. They come back, you settle on $600. Well, what happens after that? They play a game. And the game is, oh, well, we don't think it's going to fit on a 40-foot trailer. Well, if you didn't think it was going to fit on a 40-foot trailer, why did we even begin to have this conversation, these negotiations? So, okay, so what do? I mean, the most logical thing to do would be to figure out if it would fit on a 40-foot trailer. But no, I believe that this broker is going to play a game and have him wait longer. So I'm editing this video right now, and I just realized that we're talking about the broker and the shipper not knowing if the load would fit on a 40-foot trailer. And I got to call BS on that one, because as the shipper, and me having had been in construction, primarily roofing construction, 9 times out of 10, the load that he actually received, which you'll see later on in the video, is going to be a 4x8 load, which means that each skid, each pallet is 4 foot by 8 foot. It's pretty much standard, industry standard for the insulation size. And then the height of them, they're roughly about 48 inches without the runner. So if the runner is what separates the insulation from the ground so that the forks can get underneath the pallet to pick it up. So I think I got to call BS on this one, because as the shipper and as the broker, it should have been a very easy way to determine if it would have fit on the 40-foot trailer without having to go through all these games and nonsense back and forth. And also waiting, which you'll see how waiting 24 hours to get an answer is actually going to hurt this hotshot truck driver in the long run and increase his anxiety and willingness to accept less, to move on. And I'd be willing to bet that within this 24-hour period, they're going to say, yeah, either they found someone else to take the load, or, he can take it for less. But either way, they're going to try to renegotiate him back down below that $600, because they're playing this little scare tactic with the time. And he's saying, well, how do they move this freight? How do they get drivers to take these loads at $1 a mile, 60 cents a mile? And honestly, more than likely, I would guess that there's some other companies out there, other drivers, they're extremely desperate and they got to go. They'll take, if it costs them $2.60 a mile, they would rather take $1 a mile, so it only costs them $1.60 a mile to get away from wherever they are, maybe. But also, I'd be willing to bet, this is just quick glance outside looking in, that your competition isn't riding around in a 2022 GMC Denali. Probably not. Their overhead costs, their operational costs are probably much lower than yours, so that they can afford to have some of these lost leaders to get them out of a bad spot into a better market, maybe. But I believe that this is going to be a growing trend that he's going to experience, because people are hungry, people are desperate, people have to pay bills, people will do things just to get by. And even though your cost may be $2.60 a mile, and they're taking $1 a mile, they know that if they keep doing it, eventually they're going to keep running out of money. But they're hoping that it doesn't happen. But they also know that if they sit there, they make zero. They make nothing, nada. So it's a scary place to be in. And then, one of your competitors falls off. There's probably 10,000 more out there willing, ready, and able to take a loss. And it's if you negotiate this load and you want $3 a mile and they give it to you, and then they're on the phone with someone else negotiating another deal, and they figure out that they would take it for $275. But guess what? They're going to call you back and tell you, no, sorry. And you may already be halfway there to pick it up, and they tell you, no, they canceled the load. They're not going to tell you the truth. They're not going to tell you that they got somebody to take it for less. They'll just say that the shipper canceled the load. But these are some of the struggles that I believe hotshot owner operator truck drivers are going to face more and more. We're going to see more of this probably on YouTube as they share their experiences and share their stories. But what it does is these interactions between the drivers, the truckers, the hotshots, the brokers, logistic freight movers, just slow down transportation. They just slow down our supply chain. So where a supplier may think, like a Costco or Sam's Club or Target or Walmart, may think that they're going to get something on a certain day, they may not, because the brokers are sitting here playing games with the drivers and the hotshot truckers and the owner operators. They're playing games with them to maximize their profits by delaying the loads to buy time to make the drivers more willing to accept the lower cost. But let's just say that doesn't work out, and eventually they have to start paying more. Then we're going to see it hit us in the stores on the shelves through higher prices and inflation. So I will say it is pretty cool watching him drive to pick up this load, because we just got back from Butte. As part of we crossed through Butte in part of our trip. Michelle, preparing for survival, she posted a video about it. But it's just cool to see the country and places that we have been this summer. So here he's picking up a load. It says ABC Supply. I told you guys I was in construction prior to this. ABC Supply, they're primarily roofing, but they're pretty much all building components. And he's picking up some EPS. It's insulation. It's expanded polystyrene, and it'll go on a roof more than likely, but it could be used in other components of building construction. But fortunately, not very heavy. So this should be a pretty easy load for him to carry, and maybe a little bit less fuel. But it will have a pretty good amount of drag, and slow him down, or the resistance will add to his fuel consumption. But you can see here that he's loaded this trailer, or they loaded the trailer, but he had to tarp it. And he said it took him an hour and a half to tarp this load, even with help. So granted, you have a cost, a break-even cost per mile, but then you also need to factor in the cost of the physical effort and the time required and necessary to load these trailers and protect the loads and tarp them, if that's part of the requirement of the shipper. And these all add up. These all add up. They add up for your drive time. They add up for your stop time. They add up for whether or not you're going to need to find somewhere to stay overnight, depending on where you're going, how far distance you have to travel. And it's more than just a price per mile.
So we made it back to the customer's warehouse all in one piece. Of course they are closed, so we are going to drop the trailer here, and I'm gonna go get a hotel for the weekend.
And this is what I was just talking about. I'm watching this for the first time with you guys, but now you have the added cost of having to get a hotel for the weekend because you showed up on a Friday after they close, or on a Saturday, and now you can't get unloaded until Monday morning. So I do, again, like I said, I love his attitude and his optimism and his eagerness and willingness to keep pushing through this. But at the same time, his costs, I don't know if he's really conscious of his costs, especially with this added hotel expense, because if he would have shown up at a time where he could have been unloaded, he would have not necessarily needed the hotel expense that he's going to incur for the weekend. But he's also now not sure if he's going to find a good load to get out of Montana. And it's just like this perpetual cycle that, and I think that these, he's going to check the load boards, but these freight brokers, they know the positions that they hold, especially when they know that, hey, we know there's not much coming out of Montana. So anything that is coming out of Montana, we're not going to give you a premium for it because we know you're trying to get out of there. We don't want to, they're going to use these against the shippers. And I think, my opinion, if I got any truck drivers, if I got any hotshot drivers, any owner operators, please comment. But my opinion is they're going to continuously beat those folks down, and they're going to continuously pay them less. They're going to run them out of business. They're going to make them lose money. They're going to not be profitable. Any minor hiccup, any repair, any damage, any DOT citation, any fines, anything like that, it's going to put them under. If we see a rise in diesel prices, they're going to be in serious trouble. And ultimately, it's just going to make it so that, our transportation and our trucking industry is going to potentially collapse, especially on the owner operator side. And then we're going to feel that pain in the stores.
And I'll let you know total miles for both of these trips and what the rate is. All right, so this is a total mileage with deadhead to the first pickup to the drop off, and then deadhead back to the pickup and drop off. So 548.9, so 549, and each trip was 650 bucks. So that's $2.36. It's not exactly great, but there was nothing else.
It's not great, but there was nothing else. And I hear what you're saying, but if your break even is $2.60 something cents, you just lost money, plain and simple.
So I'd rather lose a little bit and keep some money coming in for the week. Otherwise, I would have just been sitting all week.
Yeah, and so this is what he was saying earlier in the video. He doesn't mind sitting. Until you sit for 24 hours, then you do mind sitting. And this is where they get you mentally. They know the power that they hold over you. And not only did you lose money in the freight, but you're going to lose more money in the hotel room that you now have to pay for the weekend because you can't get unloaded until Monday.
Sitting all week, not doing anything, not making money, and that doesn't make sense. So,
but it doesn't make sense to sit and not make money, but it also doesn't make sense to lose money just to have money flowing, because a negative cash flow ultimately is going to drive you out of business. And a negative cash flow is literally like surviving by living off of savings, surviving by living off of your stockpile and your prep. You can only do that so long until you run out, and then you won't be able to replenish. So you have to make profit. You have to make money.
Hopefully next week will be better. This week we did make a total of 18 plus 13. It's like 10, that's 31,000. So
I think he meant 3,100. I think he meant for his first week as a hotshot truck driver, he made $3,100, but he would like to make at least 5,000.
The batteries died, but I'm in the hotel, all showered up and changed, and I'm in the process of uploading the video for the first load. But I just finished my breakdown for the week.
Let's check it out, his breakdown.
So
for the week.
My
first week
on the road, I spent $974 in fuel. I did have some other expenses. I had to buy some more bungees. I bought 10 more bungees. That was $30. And then I got a hotel for the weekend. It's $450. So my total costs of operations for this week was $1,400 and 54 cents, or $54. Now we did make $3,100 in profits, minus the...
So I just want to be a little clear here. And if he's watching this video, I just want to be clear about what the numbers here and the math, and if the uploader, this driver, you see this video, you want to contact me, please, my info's in the description. But please don't confuse your revenue with profits. Now, you've gotten on this paper here $3,100 as profits, but you can't realize profits before you realize your costs. So as you deduct this $1,454.83 from your profits, it's going to, or from your revenue, which you have labeled here as profits, it will then give you your gross profit. Gross profit. We haven't even gotten to net profit because the gross profit doesn't include other expenses like your insurance. I don't see that on here. Like your maintenance, like your taxes, your payroll expenses. There's a lot of different costs that come into play here. And I just don't want anybody to be misled or misinformed or confused by this, because if you've received $3,100 from all the loads, that isn't profit. That's just revenue.
The weekly expenses brings us to $1,645. Now, got to calculate in your pay. So I'm paying myself 43 cents a mile. So my total miles, I paid myself $516. So 1,600 minus the 516 ended up making $1,128 in the business.
And I like that. I like how he's paying himself and keeping money in the company in a form of retained earnings. I like that. But there's a little bit more that goes into this. I just want to make sure that you don't think that the $3,100 in freight that you received is profit. I like this guy. He's got a great mindset, great mentality. He's going to learn a lot. I know if he continues doing this, he's going to learn a lot.
That I used to start this company, I'm going to keep reinvesting in my business, which is really just reinvesting in myself. As soon as I get my money back that I put in, then yeah, I'll take more out. But we're going to leave that in there. And also, I'm unsure about taxes and tax season, and next week is end of quarter 2. So got to file taxes with the state, got to file IFTA, a lot of paperwork and stuff that I haven't done yet. So I don't know how expensive that is or what all is going into that.
And by not knowing how expensive that is, it's going to cut into your net income, basically, because your gross profits, that's going to be a deduction from there. And hopefully you're making enough to cover that. And this $5,000 a week that you think you need may not be enough. You got to have the proper knowledge and education and information to really build a business and start a business and be successful and be profitable, versus just buying a truck and a trailer and trying to hop on the load boards and pick up loads and make money. And then to only make $500, $500 something a week to do this, granted, he said he sold his house, so he doesn't have that expense. But, honestly, I would think that to do what you're doing, I would want to see at least $1,000 a week at a minimum, personally, before money goes into the business. But I wish him the best and much success. But I'm going to continue to monitor these stories and these videos and these different experiences from the road, because it ties into our supply chain. It ties into the food and groceries that we'll see on the shelves. It ties into inflation and price increases and what we're going to be paying. It ties into the possibility of shortages and where we could end up tomorrow. And there's huge concerns for the holiday season as far as employment and the consumer interest and available funds, disposable income, and money available for Christmas shopping, Black Friday shopping, Cyber Monday shopping. The biggest, time of year where most businesses are looking to capitalize on big purchases. I think we're going to see a huge decline for 2022, and it's really going to put some pain and some pressure on 2023. And if it plays out how I expect it, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. There's going to be mass layoffs. A lot of people are going to get fired. Some families are going to be hurt financially, extremely. Prepping is going to be tough and very difficult, whether it's financially being prepared or with food and or even being prepared with shelter or somewhere to live. Uh, I would say 2023. I'm not trying to be negative or like paint a bad picture or scare you guys or incite fear or anything like that. I'm just kind of being honest and real how I feel. And honestly, if this continues on the way that it is, I would say that 2023, we're going to see more people without a home. We're going to see more people claiming or being labeled as homeless, more people living in their cars and their vehicles, more people looking to share space and reduce costs because they just don't have it. And things are going to get tougher. They're going to get harder. And, it kind of starts here looking at the economy and like the basic fundamentals of how goods even just get transported. You'd say, "Oh well, it doesn't matter to me. I'm in a service-based industry. I'm a carpenter." Okay, well, you're not a carpenter without the goods of the lumber and the hammers and the nails and the nail guns and the all the different equipment that you're going to need, the saws, the blades, everything that you need to do your job. If it doesn't show up, then it doesn't matter if you're service-based or not.